want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brandplex here, back with a new Duels of Eden video. For today's video, we're going to be talking about the intermediate to advanced decks that are on each character. Obviously, again, I'm not a main of every character, so some of these decks won't be exactly optimized, but these will explore even more into depth the mechanics your character uses, as well as more advanced combos you can use to really get the value out of all of your characters. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump in on Saffron. This deck is going to be a pretty classic combo Saffron deck. Your main combo is going to be based off pull, and so also full disclosure, I know that the beginner Saffron deck was a lot easier than this. This is actually a much more difficult list than that one was because of how combo oriented it is. So if you've been only playing that Saffron deck, then you will have a lot of fun with this deck, but it can also be very frustrating because again, it's very precise comparatively. So I'll talk about all the combos very quickly, and then it'll be up to you guys to decide how you want to integrate that into your games, just because if I spend the time talking about every combo and all the, I guess, like, instances, then this would be like a 2-hour video, and I'm trying to make sure this video is at max 20 minutes. So anyways, the way you want to use pull as Saffron is to combo it with Sparkler at 4 or 3, at 4 range or closer. Pull will always be a true combo, but if you're at 5, it won't be a true combo. There's a very easy way to solve that. You simply Sparkler step, which is doing the buffer where you walk forward after you shoot one. So this is a perfect input buffer. Like if you're a bit slow, you see there's a gap, so you have to press Sparkler, buffer forward, and press Sparkler again. And then if you think you've hit them, then you just mash pull, and you get the entire combo you want off of it. So you can see that was 28 damage, which is a lot of damage, and you can see that if I swap my build around a little bit, and I put triple barrel in, minigun, thunder, which are all big payoffs, that's also going to be really efficient. You see that because of the lag off of minigun and thunder, I got 45 damage, and I got way more damage than really any combo deck is supposed to, or not really any combo is supposed to get, but it's gonna be way more mileage and a lot less damage, or again, I don't know what I'm saying. It's a lot more damage than you'd expect from a combo like this, especially considering it is pretty simple to just land a hit confirm on whirl. The only nuance of this build is that you are going to want to understand how to pull your mana, because you can see that this entire combo, it did require me to have 6 mana. So even if you have only 5 mana, like we can just say that you only hit triple barrel into thunder, you still have 39 damage. But obviously the more mana you have for the combo itself, the better the combo's gonna do. And it's pretty flexible. Minigun, triple barrel, thunder, all they don't really lead into each other that well, but they do a lot of damage, and so you can't go wrong with hitting any of these spells, especially if you're going to do kinetic wave, true combos into anything in this deck. You can even do like kinetic wave, W1, W1, W1 if you really wanted to, just because the spell is really, really privileged with the amount of time it takes to hit the back. And then push slash also works with this idea very well. Most characters don't get this privilege with triple barrel, but Saffron is one of the few characters that is allowed to do this. So if we check push slash into triple barrel, you can see there's a gap there, and then push slash into minigun, you can see it's true. So minigun still is going to be fine on any character outside of Saffron, but the triple barrel one is important because you can hit the Sparkler button and then triple barrel, and that's going to be a true combo, and that's going to be really nice just because you can always get to the front very easily by using stuff like step slash. You can always step slash walk, push slash, W1, and then you have the roll available to you to combo. So you can even take it a step further. I just saw this combo just now. You can even do this if you really want to, and that's again another string that does a lot of damage. So really get used to labbing these combos out, at least in practice mode, so you know what the strings are, and then really get used to pulling your mana and making sure you understand how to sparkler step and hit pull into those crazy combos. Now, Selicy is still pretty much the same as what she's always been. You're going to be going for the whirl combos. I actually don't know if I talked to these combos in the Selicy part of the last video, but you have step whirl, which combos into almost everything. Obviously, it doesn't combo into minigun, or doesn't combo into crossfire, just because if you're standing still with minigun, there's a little bit too much lag. But if you do hit the like, it's any of these spells, right? It doesn't need to be your W1. It can be auto slash or push slash. Like, let's just show auto slash. You can do auto slash and then hit W1 afterwards, and then get the crossfire, and that's gonna be a ton of damage. Is there a chance that you could even? I don't think there's a chance. I think you can't crossfire and stuff again, can you? Yeah, you can't. So there's always going to be a massive gap. Crossfire is always going to be your finishing spell, but that's fine. It's a ton of damage, and you only need so many hits to really take someone down. Stuff like Shear and Barricade, which would normally be limited to the front of the deck. Obviously, as Selicy, you can always run forward and use it there. Just remember that you don't need to use your W1 to do these spells. You can always simply be in the front and use the spells instead. Like, you don't need to risk going into the back and missing because people just step through you. You can always mix it up 50-50 and just use it in front of them and hit them there instead. So very simple game plan. If you've been playing Selicy a lot, you probably understand the invade aspect. So it's just being more aware of what combos you can do and being more careful about where you cast them. Now, Hazel is going to be a bit more complex like Saffron was. She has a bit more going on with her mechanics than meet the eye. Pull is going to be a big one. So, like Saffron, it is a true combo off of certain distances. So if you hit the Hazel W1 or W2 rather at ranges 3 or 4, it is going to combo into Pull, which does a very similar thing to Saffron, where it leads to everything. The only issue with Selicy or with Hazel is that you can't really reliably do a similar thing as Sparkler Step, so it's a lot less reliable to rely on the tap into pull because they might be able to walk out more easily. And obviously, if they're standing in the second row, you don't really have a reliable way to hit that pull because they can always step up and then hit you and punish you, and you can't really reach them with weapons. So the other technologies we have on Hazel, which we probably talked about before, is just going to be Bomb and Beam Crystal and everything. So Kokokiwi, who is a good friend of mine on the Oceanic server, developed this one strategy to really ruin my day whenever we played customs together, and that was to put a bomb on this second row, W2 and upwards, and now this entire space, this bottom right square of Saffron's is totally unsafe. And you can see that they did a grand total of 19 damage, which is an insane, which honestly isn't that insane, but it's enough to pressure an opponent out of the game, just because it hurts a lot. You only need to land that 6 times to finish the game, and you have a bunch of spells that can easily lead into more. So like auto slash, step slash, like obviously I can like whack, auto slash, and then bring my opponent into the very back, which is always kind of rough to experience as a non-Hazel player. But obviously Hazel players will be more than happy to put you in that merry-go-ride if you give them the chance to do it. What am I doing wrong here? Is it... I got step slash auto slash walk forward and then bonk into backstab. So a lot of things going on with Hazel. Whirl is a bit of a risky maneuver, but it is pretty valuable because it is the most damage efficient game or mana efficient to damage spell in the game. And if the opponent is in melee, you can always do a wrench into walk backwards whirl, which is a gap 2 but forces them to shield, or else they take 10. Or you can always do the W2 into whirl. That's a gap 3, which is again only shieldable. There's always the range 3 whirl, which is a true combo. So if you hit that instead of wanting to go for pull, and then range 4 W2 is also a true combo in case you don't have pull as well. So a lot of options for whirl. It also covers kind of weakness of the third row being covered. The back column is always going to be a bit of a spot of weakness for Hazel, but you're really just going to have to use your turrets and smart spell usage to get them out of there. And then again, as always, in case you've forgotten, Beam Crystal is always going to be very decent on Hazel because you can just drag it upwards and maybe your opponent doesn't expect you to push the Beam Crystal in front of them while they're going to hit you. Moving on to Terra, we're going to be going with a build that my good friend Rooney loves running. And so it's essentially a break build. We're gonna, again, there's a really common theme with all of these stronger builds is where you want to stack up mana to make sure that you have the ability to use all these combos. And this deck is no different. So what you're gonna do as this Rooney deck is you're going to use Jackhammer, spread these things everywhere. Eruption will break your opponent's tiles, and then you can use Lockdown Starfield, and you'll do an amazing amount of damage on the opponent while denying them the ability to move. And obviously, not every hand is going to look this beautiful, so you have to be careful about that, but that's where it really is important to have good mana awareness and hand awareness, because let's say that you have Lockdown Starfield really early, maybe you're just going to want to go for a few W1s and then go for a Lockdown and then shuffle your deck and be done with it. So this deck I can't really give that much instruction on just because I've only experienced playing against it a few times. The big things I would say are that Wrecking Ball into Golf Bomb are gonna be pretty good, and then so you can always do like Wrecking Ball, Golf on, and that's pretty difficult to react to. I wonder if you can even just like do the W1 gap 6. So you can see that Golf Bomb does cover a pretty huge space, and once again, if you're doing Lockdown, Starfield, Golf Bomb, if you don't hit your opponent directly on, so like maybe hit the tipper of Lockdown, you can always smash all these buttons together, and that's going to be a ton of damage that your opponent's going to not have a great time playing against. So pretty good coverage, prevents your opponent from playing the game very well. It's very easily frustrates your opponent. Honestly, I kind of had fun playing against it in a very masochistic sense, but if you have questions, Rooney is always on the Eden or Duels of Eden Discord, and he'll be happy to help you with that. Going on to Shiso. Shiso's a character that I haven't really seen that often, so I'm not going to pretend like I know how he's played. So I'm trying to give very basic hints on him. Basically, you can always use Bomb Toss and then load your bullets. I wouldn't worry too much about loading your bullets in this as this character, just because you're going to only need 1 or 2 bullets at most. Because you can see I have Barricade here. I can always use Barricade into backstab. I can use Barricade into my gun, into backstab, and you can see that's a combo, right? So you don't need that many bullets if you're playing around your access well. Like you can even, you can't really walk into a gun, it has to be head on, but if your opponent's not really expecting it, like they don't shield it, and they're not aware of the combo lines you're doing, because again, no one really plays Shiso, and you know, on ladder, the odds that someone knows how Shiso works is pretty low. You can always just ego check them with the lockdown gun. It is, again, dodgeable, but maybe they're spamming hit step because they don't know any better, so you can always still get the combo with the lockdown gun and then slap them around. So Inverter is mostly just here as a tech because I was labbing it, and it's pretty funny that you can press Inverter while you're using W2, and then it'll hit anyways, so it's just more pressure available to you, like maybe you're inverting downwards, and you're just like hitting random buttons to get more pressure randomly if it comes down to it. So I really have, again, not really much for Shiso. I guess the main things would be the things gun can and cannot combo into. So obviously we saw that gun could not combo into a walk barricade, but you can use gun out of minigun. I don't think you can combo minigun out of gun unless you're, if you're not close enough. So yeah, I guess at that distance you can. But maybe a bit further you can no longer combo it. You can see there it's no longer true, so just be aware of that. If you're going to use gun before minigun, you're going to always want to make sure you're close enough for it to actually hit, and maybe if you're just playing neutral, you can always use W2 into minigun, and they'll hit that as well. And then obviously we had the inverter trick. Minigun will always combo out of inverter as well, if you're aware enough, if you know the pattern at least. And again, if you're good, you can even prep the W2 beforehand to get even more damage, which could even lead into backstab, which could have a bomb at the end of it. So just be aware. Shiso is a character that isn't labbed very much because he is pretty fresh, because he got changed a lot during testing and now people don't really play him. So he's a lot harder than he was back then, but I think he should be fine. You just have to work a bit differently to get all the things you want. So next character is going to be very, very similar to Shiso in the way they're played. It's just that they've been labbed for way longer, so all the combos are much more aligned. Very similar idea of using bomb, barricade, backstab, and all this to do a lot of damage to the back. But as VO, you do have a lot more combo options. So I'll just go through all the combo options for you guys. I'll take out bomb because actually I'll include bomb to show you guys the first tech, which is that when you're playing VO, your sweet spot tipper will always prep the bomb very easily, and the bomb will be prepped and ready to be exploded with backstab. And then the other thing is that your W1, or rather your W1 will combo out of barricade if you walk down, unlike Shiso's, which is obviously very, very good. And then unlike Shiso, we're running Whirl, which has the same property of being able to follow hit step if you're fast enough. And because of how hit step works in this game, you can see that when I hit the barricade, you get an extra 5 frames to react to the hit. So you actually have a bit more time than you might expect to get this combo off, just because the buffer system does pause for that to happen. Another really big point of, I guess you call it privilege for VO, is that her weapon is one of the few weapons that combos out of Whirl. And so that's something that allows you to push your opponents back into backstab, and then maybe you barricade them and then push them back in again. And you can see that that's already doing a ton of damage. Most of that is going to be Whirl. Like if you take Whirl out of the equation and just do W1 backstab, barricade W1. It is a lot of damage as well, but you can see that the magic consumption is way higher for kind of less reward. And now we have stuff like Hailstone. Hailstone's mostly just here for the quick W1 payoff. And then if we go through the whole combo with Vio, we can actually see, say check out Whirl. We can actually see just how fast his damage stacks up and why Hailstone is really nice, because it does provide that very brief moment of hit step for your combo to continue going. So if my opponent's up here, let's say that I'm playing, let's just say that I step slash, right? So I can step slash into push slash, and I can thunder, backstab, and you can see that it just does a lot. Let's see if we can actually do it properly, because again, this is a very mechanical character. There's a reason why the deck's called Showickle, or yeah, Showickle, is because Showix and Mickle are the two players that can really show off how strong it is. You see 42 damage, and most of that wasn't actually through Vio's weapon there, but you can see that in the middle I did backstab. I did W1 them back into barricade, but there's a lot of improvisation with this deck that you can do in case you're like, maybe your opponent's like not in the back row, they're actually in the second row. You can always do stuff like let's see, you can always do stuff like, oh, I catch them here with barricades, I'm going to do that, and then walk forward. And you can see that if you don't shield properly, you catch up the shield. Maybe you W1 walk backwards, gap 3, again, hit the shield. You can always W2, then barricade, and if they don't dodge it, they'll take a bunch of damage. Or you can just, you know, do barricade, W1, walk forward. There's a lot of things you can do as this character. That's a huge knowledge check. She has been nerfed here and there, so that some combos are true and some combos are not true. But it's still really scary playing against her, because once again, you get caught on that third row. Like, let's just say that barricade gets off angled, you're gonna take a ton of damage, and there's not much you can do once that barricade lands and they have Whirl in hand. Even if barricade lands and they don't have Whirl in hand, again, they can always combo you and then fish for that Whirl later on, because of how well that you can dump your deck, assuming that you are fast enough to do it and good enough to do it, because it is very important to be aware of your entire deck while playing VO. Moving on to Reva, this is going to be a Missile Fort deck, and I won't claim to know at all how Missile Fort really plays this. All I know is that Missile Fort prioritizes keeping W1 up as often as possible, just because it's very taxing on the opponent to use that. Strip Mine's always on row 3 to pressure them into the back, where they can be backstabbed into Strip Mine. And then Shear, obviously, just going to be popped in the front. You're also going to have Quad Claws, just because Quad Claws is very good to pair up with your W1. Because again, a lot of mental tax going on with your W1 and then getting hit by Quad Claws, it just really feels bad. And obviously, it's going to really get your opponent to make mistakes. You can also play back if you're out of mana and low on cards, and then W2 forward once you're done shuffling. And then if you hit Quad Claws, mini pull will be true. Probably from any relevant distance, because you'll almost always be using Quad Claws minigun at the front row. So you can see there that at the very back row, this isn't a true combo, but the odds your opponent are in the back row when you have Strip Mine and your W1 spamming all this is quite low. So it's a very much lower pressure deck. Missile Fort makes it work, but Missile Fort is also one of the masters at Reva, so maybe it won't work for you without good practice. So this is going to be the infamous Siege Tetra Downfall plus Ragnaros triple barrel deck, and there's not too much to... The deck is pretty hard. Like, Chiretta obviously has her W1 loops, and you have to like understand how to loop all these things properly, but it's really just practice at a certain point, because you can like W1 loop, push slash, and then maybe you can walk up Downfall. Again, I'm not a Chiretta player, so I won't claim to know how all these combos work exactly, because you can see that I'm like messing around now, and clearly some of these things I'm labbing don't really work out. But the main thing you want to be really cognizant of is getting your C's. It's either getting C's to align with a lion, haha, in your deck, which allows you to use Downfall, or use Tetra around the C stuff. So if we use C's, oh, what? That was a bug. If you use C's, then I align, and then I use Tetra. You can see that's a ton of damage. 37 damage for that combo. Obviously, C's combo is just fine into Ragnarok and Triple Barrel. You can always use your W2 for that. There's just a lot of things going on here that make this deck really tough to play against because, again, it does a ton of damage and every single hit is going to lead into a ton of damage, and it's another deck that is going to want you to float a lot of mana to make sure you have money, or rather mana, to start those combos. And so now we're going to talk about Gunner, who is a character, again, that has admittedly very few people playing it. So I'll just quickly go over the really important things I think are going to be important for this deck. So Beam Crystal is just here for more row pressure because your deck is quite slow. W1 into Air Rifle. W1 is going to be true. You're going to be running Rush, Kinetic Wave, Push Slash because very often with this deck, I can envision you really giving up control of the front because you have all these hit scans. And if your opponent is playing really comfortably on the front and doesn't really respect your build, then you can always just hit these Kinetic Wave, Push Slash options to get them out of here. And the reason why we're running this Frost deck, or this Frost package, is because of the fact that you're probably going to be playing very far back anyways and very slow. So it'll give you time to utilize the combo here. You can see that I stacked my Crystal Rifle to 10 with just Snowcone Barricade, whereas it starts with 4 damage base. You can always tag your own Beam Crystal if you want to with this combo to ramp up Crystal Rifle even faster. And really, it's again an experimental deck because no one really plays this character. So I don't really have the best idea of how you're supposed to play this character more, but this is just a thought experiment that should work because it plays off of Gunner's very good camping. He's very good at camping. Crystal Rifle, like Air Rifle, Crystal Rifle. If you're digging for these cards and you see that you have Air Rifle and Crystal Rifles like next to Barricade, you can always hit your W1 and then fish it that way. And let's say that I have the 14 damage Crystal Rifle here. This is now suddenly going to be plus 10 damage, so you do 23 damage for 4 mana, and that's all hit scan if you hit there. And another important thing is that these spells, like Rush, is going to be a spell that combos into your weapon. It doesn't do it on an off angle, I believe, but that's what Push Slash and Kinetic Wave are for, because with Push Slash and Kinetic Wave, let's say that you're going to rush into Push Slash. Don't think this is a true combo, but at least it gives you time to breathe. So you can see that's a gap 4 there. I think if you just hit it first and then walk. No, if you walk, then hit it. Yeah, so if you rush, walk, Push Slash, and then hit, it's a gap 1 on the Push Slash, but they can only walk up or down, which means that they're off of you. And then obviously Kinetic Wave is just going to be Kinetic Wave, where if you hit it, it just combos into the world. So again, not sure if that Gunner deck really works that well, but it's more experimental, so hopefully it ends up being fine for you guys. This Shopkeeper deck is going to be pretty similar to the beginner one I recommended as well. You're going to be playing around your mines, and then the reason why you have all these anti-melee spells is because you can always play into your mines, knock your opponent in, really play with their emotions and nailing them back. You're going to have Align Ragnarok for the constant pressure, and then all of your spells as Kinetic Wave obviously combos into Ragnarok, combos into Triple Barrel. Fade Away has the funny property of being something you can combo with Shopkeeper, not only by using W2, but also you can always use Align and then hit Fade Away, and that'll be really hard to react to, or even Fade Away into Align. There's really just a number of ways that you can... Actually, does Fade Align work? I think maybe they have to be in melee range. Yeah, so your opponent's really close to the front, they're not respecting you. Fade Away Align works, and then Align Fade Away obviously is a thing too. So a lot of options here. W2, very good for Mine as well. Mine can also be used with Align, which they can then combo into everything else as always. So SK is very different because you don't need to pull your mana as high. I guess the very common... Something I just show really quickly on Shopkeeper before we really get any further is just how many traps that you can actually use on a full mana bar. Like, I don't have infinite mana on, but you can just see that I can have up to like 6 traps. So what you can do as SK if you're trying to wrap for mana is you can just like hit these 2 tiles. Let me see, actually burn all my mana before I do this because it is an important concept. I want to make sure that I at least have the right showing. So you can see here I put 2 mines here, and And then I can just hover here, and by the time they fade, I'm already at 4 mana. So this play is kind of like +2 mana if you're shuffling, like you have no other options. And then knowing this, you can always keep like 2 mines on the field at any time because it is a pretty safe mana investment to do so. And then that's really stressful for your opponent because you've limited their movement, and then if they walk on there or you W2 them, then you can combo them and they take 1,000,000 damage for it. Moving on to Harissa. This is just gonna be Shol Mina's deck. We haven't really seen him play recently, but this is like he's played with a lot. The main combos you're gonna want to know are going to be the ones that involve stepping with primer. So you can always step, walk as a frame trap, and then use other spells afterwards. So you can see that that's a true combo, and that's really, really strong because actually, was that a true combo? It is not. Maybe you have to be. There's a lot of this character they get nerfed a good amount, so I'm wondering if a lot of these combos were. There's a good chance I just don't even understand the combo itself, so maybe we can like hit it. Give me 1 second. It's like actually a pretty frame tight combo, but might also just be useful with kunai or miniguns. So yeah, I guess the main thing is that with Harissa, you can always walk. You can always do that instead. So at this range, you can always just walk for more stuff. But obviously, if they're staying in the back, you're gonna have to pull them back with the button instead, which can be a bit difficult to combo into if you're not used to it like I am. But yeah, it's going to be a very standard straight line deck where you're going to use the mixture of step pressure and straight lines to really get combos. Straight lines are just going to combo into each other for the most part. Just remember, again, to end with Javelin. It looks like Minigun also doesn't quite combo properly. So there is a bit of knowledge when it comes down to understanding what combos into what. So just be aware of that. Kunai will always be the best combo, or will always be the best spell to use in the middle, just because Kunai combos into everything. Looks like Javelin to Minigun isn't quite a combo, so it might be like Minigun, Kunai, Bouncing Blade, and then end with Javelin. It's going to be the preferred combo, and so if you're playing against this combo, just like spam up or down, hope your opponent doesn't know it quite properly. And then Paragon is just going to be useful because you can Minigun, and then if you're at the 3 or 4 range, I think you can even just walk Paragon and walk back, so... Or is it possible? So Minigun lets you walk into Paragon, I think. Maybe I'm not doing it properly. Yeah, again, not mastering these characters. These are just the decks that people use, so I know for a fact that they work. I just don't know what the logistics are behind them because I haven't been able to see Shol play in a very long time because of the game releasing, and we haven't had an alpha tournament for Shol to show off his skills. So once that comes out, we'll be able to experiment a bit more. So with Dreadwyrm, this is going to be acting on the assumption that you're never going to want to align with your opponent unless you have to. So whether it's to get the value off of Kinetic Wave with a Step Slash, or it's just going to go for a Minigun Punish, your character really does excel off of never being in front of your opponent. So that's what stuff like Entangle, Diagonal Beam, and Paragon are for. So this way you can just like play and never actually see your opponent in the eye unless to quickly poke in to get entangled. Then you can do all the stuff that occasionally involves walking in front of your opponent to kind of mix it up on them. Really like card passing by. There's not really much sauce going on with Dreadwyrm. It really is just all the mental stack and mental pressure. So if you're looking for a character that focuses more on positioning than it does on comboing mechanics, I think Dreadwyrm is up there. You just have to be aware that because she has lowered combo game, you have to hit your opponent a lot more to kill them, unlike characters like this current Saffron build, Violette build, this Terra build, etc. You do have to continuously interact with your opponent and slowly poke them down until you eventually just hit them with a strong diag beam, which lets you hit them with a minigun, and then they die. So this Neera build is going to work quite similarly to the Gunner build, except it has a few different ways to ramp, unlike the Gunner build. So the first way you're going to be able to ramp is actually going to be hitting W2, Heat Seekers, and then... Oh no, I actually don't think it's possible anymore. Oh, okay, so we actually got that changed. I forgot about that. So you can't use W2 and Heat Seekers anymore to make this work. What you can do is you can W2, walk forward, barricade, and then hit Heat Seekers, and that gives you charge on your Crystal Rifle. Now, obviously, you will be running Heat Seekers, which is debatably a bad card, but this is a way faster way to stack and a way more dangerous way to stack your Crystal Rifle than, say, Snow Cone, Barricade. And the biggest benefit of having Snow Cone still is that you can always just use your, you can always just mash your W2 into Snow Cone, and that will give you one stack of your Crystal Rifle, which obviously isn't the best necessarily, but it's just something to be aware of. Like, while your opponent is trying to play around your stuff, you can always just throw that out, because that way they can't walk in front of you. They might get hit by a stray pellet, which would in the end give them even more frost, and that makes second Snow Cone for longer. And then Crystal Rifle, Minigun, these are all just spells that are like decent spells. Minigun could probably go for Perforate, honestly, just because I thought Minigun comboed. But I guess it doesn't. But Minigun, honestly, solid enough. Worst comes to worst, we're just using Minigun as a fishing spell, because if you hit Minigun, you can hit Crystal Rifle. And if you hit Crystal Rifle, you probably can't hit Minigun, but your Crystal Rifle is going to be the way you end the game. Speaking of Crystal Rifle, stuff like Auto Slash does go into Crystal Rifle quite easily. Stuff like Step Slash, if you walk, also goes into it. You can always do the mash, mash, mash into Crystal Rifle and hit that as well. So a few ways to confirm into it. Just be aware that it is kind of hard to hit it raw, but if you do hit it raw, you're going to have ramped it up so much by that time that it will be quite powerful. Now, Queen is going to be a very similar situation to Shoal, or Harissa rather, where the deck is just going to be a bunch of very good cards paired together, and there's not actually going to be any like interesting combos. It is almost entirely the pressure you can put on as a player. I won't pretend to know how to best explain how to combo all these things together, but just for the small details, like your chess piece into Mistletoes can lead into stuff. So if you have Mistletoes, like for example, like I have Bishop, I can use a Bishop into this, and then that lets me hit the rest of my deck. So you can be aware of that. Same thing with Knight. If you hit Knight into Mistletoe, very similar idea. Very weird hitbox on Knight, so people might not expect it. Otherwise, you're really just working with the standard step deck, where you can just like going for invade on proper angles. You can go step missiles. If you're close enough, you can actually combo your line items or line spells with just kunai and minigun. So if you are literally like at this precise angle where you're three away, if you're off angle, you can combo by walking in. If you're on, then you can combo by staying aligned. So just be aware of that. In the past, during I think the demo in April, you could have a lot more leeway with that, but with all the changes, you do have to be aware that it is a bit more niche to hit your step missile combo these days. And then Maypul, last but not least. I've been playing against Index and Taylor a lot, and the way that I've been seeing them play Maypul is essentially being very, very aggressive at the front, because you have your W1 to cover so much space. W2 is decent just because you can catch your opponent's a bit off guard. The step spells are very good because if you hit one step spell, you can always just mash them and press W1 at the very end. And if you do mash these step spells, like let's say that your opponent is caught at the very front, if you were to do like step slash W1 into W1, you actually are able to throw your pellet at the very end. And even like at the very front here, like if I were to do W1 all slash W1 or W2, you can see that I've marked my opponent. And if I've marked my opponent, then any hit that does above 3 damage will stun them. And so Whirl, Shear, very, very good for controlling the very front 3 tiles. If you hit Whirl into Shear, you can see it's a gap 1, which means that's essentially true for the purpose of the combo. Or if you just hit Shear into Whirl, it's again a true combo. So very, very strong combos available. Strip Mine, again, just trying to show up the weaknesses of Maypul being very melee. You're going to slap that on row or column 3 like you would on Missile Fort's deck, and then you have Backstab for the back. And then Claw Trap is just a slap in either in the back row or in the third row. Just again, we're trying to make our opponents' lives as miserable as possible if they do want to camp us, and therefore we have a lot of invade options, we have a lot of anti-camping options, and then Bomb Toss is just going to be quite good because you can just slap it into the back row. Not quite as well as someone like Violette can. What we can do with this is you can actually prep the bomb with your W1 and then just shear, and you can see that's a very nice combo. A bit outdated these days, but it is something you can do because it will catch people off guard and does a ton of damage. You will have to prep the bomb though, whether it's with your W1 or something else, because Sheer does 7 damage and bombs have 8 HP. So just be careful of that, and don't activate it again and swing it into your own back row and grief yourself. But yeah, hopefully that video made more sense. Again, since we're getting more and more in-depth with the characters, my knowledge does get a bit weaker on them. It's mostly what I've labbed and what I've seen from other players. So if you have any questions on any of these characters, please feel free to join the Eden Discord or Duelists of Eden / One Step from Eden Discord and ask these players yourselves, because they're all super helpful, they're all super knowledgeable, and we all want you guys to get better so that we can all enjoy this game together. With that said, hope you all have a good day or night wherever you are, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.